Hello, and welcome to this week's Brief Thoughts for Others, otherwise known as B.T.F.O. Today, we're going to be talking about Horizon Part 1. This is a 2024 Kevin Costner film. It's really interesting to think about from my perspective. Apparently, Kevin went down and filmed a lot of this down in southern Utah. So a lot of the location looks really familiar. But talking about the actual film itself, there's a lot in there that I like. However, I think overall, story structure-wise, it's a bit of a mess where there are about four or five different subplots that we keep cutting back and forth to, and I don't really know that helped in the purpose of the film. This film is also kind of weird to talk about, just in the fact that there is going to be at least a part 2 that comes out in August. Apparently Kevin wanted to make 4 parts. I don't know if he actually secured the money to make all 4 before going forward, or if he just got the money to make 2. But I am looking forward to seeing the second one, if for nothing else, for seeing how that plays into this one. Because for example, getting into spoilers here, we've got the English couple that are on this trail, and they basically just they learn that they have to help out, and that not everyone in their party is super happy that they're there with them, and that's about it. I really wonder if that's something we couldn't have just established in a part 2 or part 3, or whenever they're actually going to be relevant. Because and that's the same for, I would say, the Native American subplot, because I understand more why that one's in the film as opposed to the English subplot, but the Native American subplot really feels like something that we could have flashed back to in another part. And that would have been more impactful there. Whereas here, I feel like it's almost too much story, if that makes sense, where they're trying to really shove in all these different plot lines, and so you're there as a viewer trying to keep track of all these other things, and eventually, for me, I felt like it was the Native American subplot and the English subplot that every time they cut back to them, I was just like, okay, this isn't really going anywhere. Can I just go back to the other subplots? Because watching Kevin Costner kind of try to get away from these bounty hunter-esque people, because they're not really bounty hunters. They're specifically after the one lady and her child, the child, but ultimately it ends with it's got to be at least a solid 2 minutes. It feels like a solid 10, but this just montage of events. I'm really curious to see if that's a flash forward of things to happen in part 2, or if part 2 will start off with like, okay, yeah, you remember all those events? Let's go. Because if part 2 really does start off with just, oh yeah, like, all those events happened, we hope that you really paid attention to that end montage, then yeah, this is gonna be a fucking mess. But I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Kevin Costner, he likes to film in Utah, which is kind of neat, being from Utah. But because the other film that I'm thinking of is The Postman from 1997. I want to say that I'm getting that right. But that one he filmed down here in Utah, and that one suffers a lot of the same problems, where it's not that any of the storytelling is necessarily bad. It's just that he can't seem to focus on like a particular thing that he wants to tell his story about, and so it ends up feeling just sort of bloated. Where like, especially with Horizon, I think there's probably storylines in here that could make 2 or 3 really good westerns. It's a shame that it's just sort of, they're all kind of half-baked, because for some reason Kevin Costner was like, no, I want to make this film, and I want to do X and Y and Z and A and B. And I was like, no, let's, we can cut a few of these plot lines, and then you can like fully develop them in their own their own movies. But so far, I mean, if you wanted to see just sort of a modern western, and you've got 3 hours to kill, I'd recommend Horizon. There's nothing horrible about it. It's just a little clunky in like how it's presented and what it's presenting. But there's nothing outrageous about it. So I'm looking forward to part 2, and obviously my thoughts on part 1 could drastically change when part 2 comes out. But so yeah, for now, that's about it. Those are my brief thoughts on Horizon. I hope you enjoyed. So yeah, bye bye.